So we're going to go into now kind of helping you take care and repairing these areas. First of all, your log ends, and that's where we see a lot of the rot, especially in the older houses. We don't see it as much in the newer houses because proper engineering now with the log home manufacturers, they're very good at knowing you put a proper overhang to protect these logs. A lot of the log rot can also happen if the logs are past the eaves and they're sticking out into the weather. But also understand, as we learned in the previous seminars, is the ends of your logs suck up 10 times more moisture, not 10%, but 10 times. So it's like if it's not properly sealed, which we will be showing you how to do in the next seminar, you really need to make sure it's sealed properly. Now, when you do get rot started like this, you also want to make sure that if this is a straw and has sucked up moisture and you go back maybe 3 or 4 inches here and maybe here and you get hard wood, but that's not to say all the way down this log the moisture hasn't pulled in and started rot in another area. So especially if you have log end rot or decay, you want to make sure that you follow that log all the way down and tap on it and do your inspection like you learned in the inspection part. Also, if you have a check that you've noticed, which is the crack in the log, in the middle of your log somewhere else, and you don't have the access to the end, you want to make sure that you put your screwdriver in there, which we learned in our previous seminar, and kind of test to see if there is any, like this, any rot and decaying going on. Now, if it is in the middle of the log and you don't have the end of it, and you notice there is some softening in there, and even if there's not, you can make sure that you put your shell guard in there, your borate-based product, to soak in there and make sure that you're not sealing up any rotting that can still happen from the inside out. So all checks need to be taken care of in that manner, which we're also going to be going through that again in our last seminar, which is sealants and chinking and stuff. Basically, though, you're going to want to dig this out as much as possible, and we'll show you how to take care of a pocket. So again, we have a pocket in the middle or on the end of the log, whichever. You're going to want to dig that pocket out as much as possible. So you want to clean it out and make sure that you get down to the good hardwood as much as you can. Even if you've only done a top, and see there's some wood left in here that's good, or this might even be a piece of wood that you put in there to fill some of the gap. Basically, clean it all out. Then you're going to want to make sure that you do not forget to treat that whole area with the shell guard. It needs to be sprayed in and soaked in thoroughly. Then another important step, it needs to dry before you start putting the embalm. The embalm does want thoroughly dry, and that's where your moisture meter will come in and even feel that it is dry to the touch. Then you can start applying your embalm, which is your 2-part epoxy consolidator, and it's in a liquid form. Once you start applying it in there, you don't want to fill these gaps with it, but you also want to get enough in there to soak in. But again, if you start soaking it enough and it falls over the side, it'll be a mess. So put enough in and even take a paintbrush and move it around and let it keep soaking in. When it stops soaking in, you can be done. Also, even on this piece of wood here, again, you're going to want to paint all of this area, get it ready to be sealed. Or filled. Then you want to take the E-wood, which is again our 2-part epoxy consolidator. You mix it together, and then you want to fill that void. Now, in these small voids, you can even put enough of the epoxy E-wood in there, maybe even a little bit more, and that way when you go to sand or grind it, you'll be able to smooth it off to make the exact shape of the wood that you wanted. Then you can come back and start doing some faux painting or staining on this actually, and like in this case it's close, but you can also take some darker stain and maybe cover this area and maybe go down like it's part of the grain and mask some of these areas and kind of faux paint or stain and hide it even more. This is a great story. This is our eagle story. Here in the Redmond, Washington office, a customer brought this in and was going to throw it in the dumpster. So one of our sales and customer service, Kevin, took this and decided to make it a project. So basically he stripped it down, he completely, and this was a mess. I have way more pictures of holes in the back, almost the wing off part of the tail feather, and he soaked it with the shell guard, let it completely dry, and then he started building it back up. And the whole thing that you're going to see at the end was built up with the embalm and E-wood. So first of all, he needed to build this because the talents were gone and part of the feather here was gone. And so, oops, sorry about that. And then now that that's done, he started to paint the embalm and consolidate the wood and give him something structurally sound and hard enough to start adding the E-wood, which again is the two-part epoxy. So what he did was he had to build up this whole area. You can't see it, but you will soon, even this area in here. So now he has something structurally sound to attach him to another piece of wood for his stand. So basically with our log screws, he was able to consolidate it, go through it, countersink these to hide them, and be able to attach them to another log. As you can see, he took the E-wood and actually formed it like clay into the talons and the feet of the eagle, and also build up a pretty good size platform for him. And basically, you know, I have way more pictures, but this is the end example. As you can see, he faux stained and painted the talons. You can kind of tell here where the E-wood and the wood. But there are some areas here. In fact, there was an area on the back side of a wing that we saw a picture of, and he says, I don't remember repairing that. And we looked all over this eagle until we finally found him. But what he did is went back with several colors of our stain, some darker colors, lighter colors, and was able to kind of faux stain it to look properly, and then completely sealed it with the clear top coats, and even sealed the checks with Energy Seal or Checkmate. But on the other hand, let's say you have a good size pocket. If it's more than several feet, or even if it's half, it ends up being more than half of the log, or it's a log bearing, you're holding up things with this log, you are better off finding a log replacement contractor that can come in and do a log replacement, or a face of a log, a half a log. I'm going to show you how to do that too. But some ideas to give you if they're not like the wall is not, this is still holding this wall up. This is a little deeper, but again, the whole log in the back is intact. So what you're going to need to do, again, is the same procedures. You're going to want to dig all the rot you can possibly dig out of this area. Then you're going to want to treat it with the shell guard, make sure it's totally dry, and then you're still going to want to paint all the embalm in there, and even in this pocket underneath here, make sure that it's completely soaked in and the embalm has consolidated and made it hard. Now, you have a couple choices. What you can take is some 2x4 pressure-treated lumber and fill up this cavity, and then kind of push the E-wood around that and put more in, so you don't have to fill the whole thing up with the E-wood, which can be expensive. You're going to fill that part up with some wood. Make sure it's pressure-treated, and try not to get any big, large air cavities in there, so kind of push it all down and get it filled up as best as possible. Now what you're going to want to do on these larger voids like this is you're going to want to take the E-wood and only fill it up and keep it down maybe 1/8 to 1/4 inch. So you have like a recessed area for this whole thing. Because then what you can do is go back and take some of our Energy Seal, and color is going to be key here on what to use, so when you stain over it, it'll blend in. And you're going to fill the rest of that cavity with Energy Seal. This will allow you to stain over it and mask it even further. And I've seen some people be very artistic, and they'll take two colors of the Energy Seal and make knots and blend it in and kind of look like grain and stuff to further mask it.